A man who practiced sex magic with L. Ron Hubbard has a crater named after him on the moon. So does a conquistador who murdered his way to the Pacific Ocean and was later executed for treason. Right now, as you're listening to this, their names are literally carved into the lunar surface alongside Galileo and Newton. The International Astronomical Union doesn't exactly advertise this fact, but some of their choices for lunar immortality are, let's call them, colorful. How did history's most unlikely heroes end up getting the ultimate honor? Permanent residence on humanity's closest celestial neighbor. The moon's surface is essentially humanity's most exclusive Hall of Fame. The International Astronomical Union has been naming lunar craters since 1935, and they have strict rules. The honorees must be deceased scientists, explorers, or scholars who advanced human knowledge. Think Copernicus, Darwin, Einstein, the obvious choices. But buried in the official list of over 1,600 named craters are some genuinely shocking inclusions. People whose stories are so wild, so contradictory, so morally complicated, that you wonder if the naming committee was having a particularly adventurous day. These aren't just forgotten heroes. They're the kinds of people who make you question what we really mean when we talk about advancing human knowledge. And there's one more twist to this story that makes it even stranger. Let's start with Abbas ibn Firnas, who in 875 AD decided he was going to fly. Not metaphorically, literally fly. This Andalusian polymath built himself a pair of wings, climbed to the top of a tower, and launched himself into the air. He actually glided for several minutes before crashing and breaking his back. 9 centuries before the Wright brothers, this man was attempting powered flight with nothing but fabric, wood, and audacious confidence. His crater sits quietly on the moon, honoring humanity's first recorded attempt at aviation, a spectacular failure that broke bones but advanced dreams. Then there's John Whiteside Parsons, and oh boy, where do we even start? Parsons co-founded NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and invented solid rocket fuel. He was a brilliant chemist and a pioneer of space exploration. He was also deeply involved in Aleister Crowley's occult society, practiced ritual magic in his Pasadena mansion, and once performed a sex ritual with L. Ron Hubbard. Yes, that L. Ron Hubbard, to summon a goddess named Babylon. Parsons believed rocket science and magic were fundamentally connected, that both involved bending reality to your will. His life ended when his home chemistry lab exploded in 1952, killing him instantly. The official cause was accidental, but some suspected he was mixing explosives for a movie studio. Either way, the man who helped America reach the moon while practicing sex magic now has his own crater up there. Vasco Núñez de Balboa might be the most morally questionable person on the entire lunar surface. In 1513, he became the first European to see the Pacific Ocean from the Americas. Sounds heroic, right? Well, he got there by murdering his way across Panama, enslaving indigenous people, and feeding prisoners to his dogs. Literally. Balboa used trained war dogs as execution devices. He was so ruthlessly violent that even other conquistadors found him excessive. Eventually, his own men had him arrested and executed for treason. Yet somehow, this man, who represents some of humanity's darkest impulses, has a crater named after him on the moon. His name is also attached to Balboa Island in Newport Beach, where million-dollar homes overlook the harbor. History has a twisted sense of irony. Hiram Bingham III is the real-life inspiration for Indiana Jones, and like his fictional counterpart, his story is complicated. In 1911, Bingham discovered Machu Picchu, except local Quechua people had been living there and knew about it all along. They literally guided him to the ruins. Bingham then spent years shipping thousands of Machu Picchu artifacts back to Yale University, where they sat in storage for decades. Peru has been fighting to get them back ever since. Bingham was undeniably brave and adventurous, but he was also a product of his era's colonial mindset. He took credit for a discovery that wasn't his, and looted artifacts from a culture that wasn't dead, just ignored. His crater commemorates both genuine exploration and the problematic legacy of archaeological imperialism. But the most heartbreaking story belongs to Matthew Henson. In 1909, Henson became quite possibly the first person to reach the North Pole. He was Robert Peary's right-hand man on the expedition, spoke Inuktitut, had spent years learning Arctic survival from the Inuit, and by Peary's own account, planted the American flag at the pole. But Henson was black, And this was 1909 America. Peary took all the credit, and history largely forgot Henson's name for decades. Here's the truly poetic injustice. On the moon, Henson has a crater, but it's smaller than Peary's, and it sits right next to it. Even in death, even in the ultimate honor of lunar immortality, the racial hierarchy of early 20th century America is literally carved into the moon's geography. So what do these 5 unlikely lunar residents tell us? They reveal something profound about how we remember the past and who gets to be called a hero. The moon doesn't just honor the greatest minds in human history. It accidentally preserves our moral contradictions, our blind spots, our evolution as a species. Ibn Firnas crashed but dared to dream of flight. Parsons mixed rocket science with mysticism and somehow made both work. Balboa was a monster who happened to see an ocean first. Bingham was an adventurer who couldn't see past his own privilege. And Henson was a true explorer whose skin color made him invisible to his own era. Each crater is a mirror, reflecting not just individual achievement, but the messy, complicated, often ugly process of how history decides who matters. The surprising thing isn't that these people have lunar craters. It's that their stories force us to question what we really mean by human progress. The next time you look up at the moon, remember that it's not just a celestial body. It's humanity's most honest biographical dictionary. Those craters hold our heroes and our contradictions, our breakthroughs and our blind spots, all preserved in perpetual stone. The names up there don't just represent who we were at our best, they represent who we were, period. And maybe that's exactly as it should be. After all, the moon has seen everything humanity has done, from its silent perch in space. It seems only fitting that its surface would reflect not just our nobility, but our beautiful, messy, complicated humanity in all its forms. The craters don't lie. They just wait, patient and permanent, for us to decide what their stories mean.